Gloria Sharlein, thank you so much for taking the time. We got to connect actually here at an event, and we were headed out to a farm to learn about agricultural, permaculture, and it was beautiful. And I really enjoyed getting to connect with you on the bus, and I I loved your drive and your willingness to learn and to be able to expand your mind, to your belief in what's possible for yourself and your health. You are somebody that was severely vaccine injured, and so we're going to share about that. But I also think what's powerful about what you're sharing is that you're coming from a place of hope, and you've done so much to help yourself heal and to better yourself. And so I really appreciate that. So, well, anyway, thank you for taking the time today.
Thank you, Jonathan. It was a pleasure meeting you as well, and I had a great time on the bus and the farm. It was an amazing day.
It was like for everyone, it was a chance to kind of take our foot off the gas with the fight for humanity, which is really what we're here for. But it's a different type of like being able to unwind and just appreciate each other. And even here today, we're interviewing. We've got a mission here, but it's all about health. It's all about healing. It's all about the solutions. But why don't we go inside of what happened to you? What's your background with your family, with your career, and then we go into actually what happened to you and how that's changed your trajectory of your life, both for the negative and for the positive. And yeah, that'd be a great place to go from.
I'm from Los Angeles, California, is where I'm originally from. I live in Reno, Nevada. I'm a single mom to my 17-year-old daughter. It took me 12 years to finish school because I was a single parent. I'm a mathematician. I have a minor in accounting. I work at a university with doing grants, and everything I say today is on my own opinion also. And I haven't really thought about my past before this in a while, but I used to snowboard all the time. I used to bench 130 pounds. I was healthier in my 30s than my 20s, I used to say, and it all went out the window. And so you really don't try to think about who you used to be, because now it's just moving into who I am now and where I'm going. So looking back on who I used to be,
But
it's like in the past.
is it?
But yeah, maybe we can have it back. Maybe we can have it back again. I'm praying for that.
Have you believed that? Have you believed that it's possible for you?
There are certain things that I watch and I do find hope, yes. And I do know that I am way better than I was a year ago. And I just hope that this year brings me much more where I can say the same thing again next year.
Do you believe you deserve it?
Oh, yes. I believe we all deserve it. Every single last person on this earth deserves health.
Well, that's awesome. And you said that, and you say that unflinchingly that you believe you deserve it.
Oh, yes.
Like, for example, even though you injected yourself, or you agreed to injecting yourself with something like, this poison, you still believe you deserve it?
Oh, yes. I was completely lied to. If I would have known, my vaccine side effects are not on the list that they hand you when you go into CVS to get your vaccine. So I was lied to. If I would have known my side effects were on that list, I wouldn't have gotten it.
Sure. And even if it was on the list and they were advertising it and they made the fear of getting COVID and getting intubated and dying, they made that appear like worse, and then you decided to get that, in my opinion, it's still not that person's fault, or it should never have been available.
It should have never been available.
There should not be a choice for these types of things.
And that's actually what happened to me. Is I worked with a gal for 4 years, and she was 26 years old, a single mother, also a 4-year-old daughter, and she passed away from either bad hospital protocols or protocols to go by herself somewhere. And she passed away, and after that is when I got my vaccine. But I feel like she was murdered now. And I stand for her. I think about her often.
And why do you think about her?
Because she was the reason that I got vaccinated, but she was murdered. And I feel like I fell for the trap. They did that so other people would get vaccinated. Their bad protocols, putting people on vents, driving the fear into the community, and I fell for that. So, but she's passed away from that. So that's way more than what happened to me. And so I love her. I miss her. I think about her family and her daughter and how heartbroken they are. And it drives me to stand.
And so she died on like intubation. She got remdesivir.
You know, and I'm not exactly sure because I left our place of employment where we worked together, and I heard afterwards.
Yeah.
But I heard she's passed from COVID.
Exactly. So you understand that in one way or another, and I don't know what you think in regards to COVID itself being an engineered genetic biological weapon that was intentionally put into the populace. And so in many different ways, it doesn't matter which way you look at it, some there was intent here, and then it connected. For example, it created a situation that people were willing to get these vaccines. You did it willingly, but there was something that you were afraid of, and it makes sense that that's traumatic, and it could happen to us. And even not being vaccinated, in some cases, there have been cases where it puts you more at risk of not getting worse protocols or things like this. Case studies or nurses have been blowing the whistle on subjects like that too. So there is real concerns, and yeah, you certainly were harmed. And so, Gloria, now can you talk about? You mentioned some of the things you can't do, and closing the loop on what we talked about in regard to the fact that it's like very distant of who you were. It sounds like in some ways you try not to think about it, how you used to be snowboarding, bench pressing, 130, that's a lot.
Yeah.
How much could you bench press now?
I don't even know, because I haven't been able to bench press since, I don't even know, maybe it's been a year.
Could you do the bar with no weight
I've
on it?
bench pressed. I was an athlete my whole life. I played soccer for 9 years, and I snowboarded, athlete, like I'm water sports. I played sports, all kinds of different sports growing up. And in my 30s, though, that's when I started weight training, was in my 30s. And the weight training got me to a place where I felt like I was healthier than ever in my life. So people think you're healthier in your 20s, and here I am feeling healthier in my 30s. So that felt great. That felt amazing. So I kept up with the gym, and yeah, it's hard to think about that. It's hard to think about that. Before I got the shot, you know, I had 3 gym memberships. My gym bag would be in the car because I loved the feeling of lifting weights. Even, you know, what probably hurts the most is because this vaccine did mess up my heart, and the feeling that you would get in your heart from lifting weights was an amazing feeling. But now it's like I feel like I'm gonna have a stroke. And like people would maybe say, oh, that's a similar kind of feeling because you raise your heart rate so much when you lift weights, but it's not. It's a different feeling. It's a feeling that I've never had before, and it scares me.
And that's why probably the medical professionals you talk to say be careful and don't push that, because it does put you at risk. Is that correct?
Well, I have to be my own doctor because I can't get help from a doctor. So I make that assessment on my own. I have to gauge my own body and know myself. And basically after I got my shot, I was still training a little bit. Maybe not all the time like I used to be, but I would try to train as much as possible. And it got to a point though where I can feel like every time I train that my heart was going to come out of my chest basically. And I don't know, maybe it got worse as time moved on, because it did hit a point where I'm not like lifting weights anymore. I'm like just sitting in a sauna. And after sitting in the sauna, I feel like my heart's gonna, like I'm gonna have a stroke or something, or a heart attack. And yeah, finding a doctor is, for me to go find a doctor, I have to basically not even talk about being vaccine injured. And then for me, if I can't even talk to you about what's going on with me, what kind of treatment are you giving me? What are you treating if you're not treating what's wrong with me? So I don't trust even to go to a doctor. Like, I do have a doctor that's helping me, but he's in another state. So it's like a teledoc. And then I have to go to a different state to even get medicine because my state doesn't help vaccine injured.
What about a holistic doc? It's too expensive for you?
Yeah. And then the holistic doctors in my area, it's like $300, $500, $1,200 for the first visit. I could barely get through paying my bills right now. So I can't afford to go see a doctor. I can't afford to go see a holistic doctor in my local area. Yeah. And all my expenses, since this has happened, all my expenses for my vaccine injury have been completely 100% out of pocket. So I every month pretty much just pray that I'm going to get through the month. And I have a daughter that's 17, and that kills me. And I haven't been in that kind of situation where, you're younger and you're trying to make it, and so you don't have as much money. But I haven't been like that. I've built my life up, and now it's completely went back to square one.
Oh.
I have a doctor that's helping with our movement, and he's with myfreedoctor.com.
Yeah.
And Dr. Marvel's group. My doctor's Dr. After, and I'm very blessed for his help because, I was completely told that I couldn't prove it. I couldn't, I tried to go to my local doctor, and I told them with my insurance that I pay for work that I can't even use now. But I went with my insurance to that doctor, and they told me that they even wrote it down, and I have it in my medical records, but she thinks it's from the vaccine. And then they tell me that I have high blood pressure, like at 127 over something, and I've never in my life been told I have high blood pressure. And I'm like, wait a second, what was that? Like, I've never been told that in my life. And then they completely dismiss me, don't offer me any medication, don't offer me a return visit. So I'm grateful for myfreedoctor.com because they did help me. They helped me get the medication I needed. So, and to start getting some kind of treatment and relief.
That's awesome. Yeah, and Dr. Ben Marble and his good friends, Dr. Brian Artis, and we're all connecting. I'm sharing different protocols with Dr. Marble and explaining, hey, look, try this, have a look at this, see what you think. And he's open-minded. He's like, okay, we're gonna try that. Let's try this. And it's like, look, if this works, will you recommend this to your group? So, yes, I will.
And now I get to tell them, like, hey, now exactly. I'm trying this stuff.
Prove it. And that's the thing. Like, we have to prove it, and we have to get the case studies out, and then just publicize them and just share the stories, and then it will catch on, because each of the doctors with My Free Doctor basically are all working off their own accord with their own protocols. But if they all collaborate, and it just takes case studies that are undeniable for people to implement and put in some of these new strategies. So it's just, we're like right there. I just feel so upset that sometimes what happens is I'm trying to help and connect with people, and sometimes people with a lot of injuries aren't still willing to do certain things or a lot of things, and because they haven't actually learned or they haven't taken that time. And so that's kind of frozen certain things that I thought would progress things a lot quicker, where we'd get some great case studies, but then they weren't willing to do much. And so we're working on that. But
and I appreciate you wanting my data. Nobody has asked me for my data. So how are the doctors supposed to help without having that data?
So true.
So I appreciate you wanting it, and it's for a good cause, and I want to help.
Oh, that's awesome. And think about how big a mission that is when you seek to get better, not just for you, but for everyone.
Yeah.
And so, for example, when I just recently did, like what I was talking about, like a 6-day urine fast, I did it for purposes that were bigger than just me. I was look, if I can do this, who could I help with this, doing this? And if we think about things like that, then we're doing things on behalf of the tribe. I'm going to take this supplement and try this on behalf of the tribe.
I would love to tell everybody I love to tell everybody the things that work for me. And I'm very understanding, and not everything works for everyone, and we are all different, but we have to give each other those hope options and the things that do work for us, so we can try those things.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I love, and that's why I'm in this movement as well. Like, to help other vaccine injured is very important to me. And I don't want anybody else to take this vaccine. It should be pulled immediately.
100%. Can you go back a little bit and just share with me the sequence of events? You mentioned about a friend of yours, a colleague that died, and so then you decided that you'd get the vaccine. You obviously believed that it would help you. It sounds like you were pretty unaware that there could possibly be side effects. And then tell me a bit about that. And then you got 1 or 2 shots. Tell me about that. What company, and then what were the immediate reactions, and what were the long-term reactions? And then the other thing is, what symptoms or diseases have you been diagnosed with at this point?
Yeah. My friend, she passed in May 2021. And then, so I would say it only took me about 2 weeks after that I got my first shot of Pfizer. And then in June, I want to say it was June 10th, 2021, I got my second shot of Pfizer. And that's when, within hours of my second shot, I had some really horrible side effects. And I had a second menstrual cycle, like an induced menstrual cycle, which has never happened in my life. I just got off of a menstrual cycle within, I'd say a week and a half prior. And then, so this induced a second menstrual cycle, and it wasn't just like a menstrual cycle. It was the heaviest thing that's ever happened. It was super clotty the whole time, which is very not normal for me. It lasted 8 days, which is not normal for me. And then I had heart palpitations, and I had high blood pressure. And all 3 of those things have never happened to me in my life. And within hours of taking that second shot, those things happen immediately. And so when people tell me that I can't prove it, to me, that's proof enough for me. I knew exactly what caused all those things that never have happened in my life within hours of that second shot. There's no denial of it in my mind.
Wow.
And then from there, I was in constant pain in my ovaries, constant pain even when I wasn't on my period, which after I had my daughter 17 years ago, I had back pain with my menstrual cycle. I had back pain. It switched after having a child. And then now it went back to super crazy pain, unbelievable pain. It's worse than the worst menstrual cycle I've ever had in my life. It was the worst pain ever, and just constant pain. And to the point my ovaries were hurting so bad that I didn't even realize how bad my heart was. The things that were going on with my heart, I didn't even realize because my ovaries were hurting so bad. And then about 2.5 months later, I started having double cycles every month and still constantly hurting. And so, and then my face was starting to get like a prune. I felt like the life was getting sucked out of me. It was so horrible. It was scary. It was so scary too. And so through the whole time of this, I have to take care of my daughter, and I'm working. I had to continue to work sick, and I did my best to, I guess my next timeline of events would be when I went to my employer and told them, because they were going to start mandating the vaccines. And so I went to my employer and I told them what has happened to me, that these are not safe, these are not effective. How can we push this on students? This is what happened to me. Can I document this anywhere so you guys know what you're pushing on people, that it does cause these things? And they took a month to even email me back and they said that I couldn't prove it, and they said that I should just go talk to a doctor. And basically, that was the last email I received from my employer. And so after that is when I decided to go talk to a doctor. And then that's the experience I had that I previously just told you about, is when they told me I had the high blood pressure. And I told them about everything that was going on. And they said that, she thinks it's from the vaccine, but they didn't offer me anything else. Like, if it's not the vaccine, then what was it? Do you normally let your patients walk out of here with no medication and no return visit when something's wrong? Obviously, something's wrong with me. So I knew after that I never wanted to go back there again. Yeah, I don't even want to call you for a return visit. And then after that, I started speaking at board meetings about what I was going through. And my first board meeting that I spoke at, I was so angry. I was so angry, and so I felt in a way like I was dying, and I never told nobody, but I kind of felt like that. I felt like the life was literally getting sucked out of me, and I thought if that continued, I couldn't live like that forever. Like, there will be a point that my body's going to give out. So, and when they're mandating our faculty and they're trying to mandate the students, and it broke my heart to think about all the other girls, all the other female girls, students, and everybody this going through the same thing, or the same thing can happen to a young girl. And it breaks my heart. I have my daughter. I have to speak. I have to speak up. And then my next timeline event, after that board meeting, and through this whole time too, so I can't get the help I need. So that's when I did start doing my own research and trying to find whatever I can. I found like the spike protein detox for World Council of Health. And so I was doing everything I could get my hands on off of the spike protein detox, but I can't find a doctor to actually give me the correct medication to help with the spike. And then after, in the end of January, I saw Senator Ron Johnson's COVID a Second Opinion. And then that's where I learned about My Free Doctor. And I reached out to them and I told them my situation, that I can't get help. And the hospital's telling me that I can't prove it and not offering me any care. Like, please, can you please help me? And they were able to help me. And they got me, I was on ivermectin, fenofibrate, and NAC. Within 1 day, my heart palpitations stopped, and they have not returned. 1 day of being on ivermectin, fenofibrate, and NAC. And that's actually when I knew that something was wrong with my heart. Because I always wondered and I thought, and it didn't feel right. And when they stopped, I was like, oh my gosh. That was really happening. There was really something going on. And when I described it, that's heart palpitations. Okay. And then, a couple more weeks later, the double menstrual cycle stopped. But they're very honest. They are still studying on how to completely get rid of the spike. So they did tell me that they're unsure, I might have to get back on the medication at one point or another. And my heart never did it. The heart palpitation stopped, but I always had this feeling of my heart being sore. So I continued, at that point, I still continued to work out. I was not lifting heavy weights or anything, but I continued to work out some. And then about 6 months, the end of summer, this last summer, I started getting what was double, not a full blown double cycle, but spotty weeks. And this is stuff that before the shot has never happened. Anything like this, weird spotting in between cycles. But that started up again. And my heart was already sore. And so I'm I called the doctors up again, and I did. I had to go back on another round of treatment. So it's a constant battle. There was other side effects that happened as well. don't even know how to describe some of the feelings that I've had. Like, they're completely abnormal feelings. I've had feelings of like, if I don't know if sometimes I wondered if something was in my arm. I've had feelings going from my fingertips all the way to my neck, like up into my head. I've had crazy inflammation where I almost feel like I'm like a hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, it's just constant pain, constant pain, constant inflammation. I've had feelings where the inflammation is so bad, and then I feel it move into my body, like down to my heart, down to my gut, down over, like just weird feelings that I've never experienced in my life. And I don't even know what it is, and I can't even find somebody to help me with that.
Well,
I can't talk to anybody in person and go see, like, there's really no help. There's no help for a lot of us right now. With our insurance and going to the hospital, no.
and with things like, for example, for a lot of people, you've mentioned that there are things you're seeing that were better than last year, and other people, for example, for them at this point in time, their situation this year is worse than the last. If, like, for example, they're injured, like let's say 2 years ago or some time ago, and they progressively seem to be getting worse. What is it like for people in those situations, from what you know with your friends, but maybe you've gone through these thoughts yourself, where you've looked in the future and looked at what your future could look like, or what will happen to you if things progress and keep going the wrong way? What do you see in that future?
Before I had any kind of treatment, when I was on, I did feel like I was gonna die. I felt like eventually, like, my body would not be able to do this forever, and I had to do something. I had to do something for myself because the doctors weren't gonna do anything for me. So I had to find good doctors that are helping our movement and find their protocols and listen to their webinars and really become my own doctor is what I've done most of all. Dr. Apter and my free doctor helped me, but they are also in another state. You know, it's when you can't talk to your doctor in person, that personal relationship, I think, matters so much. And when the doctor really gets to know who you are and they can really truly help you with the correct test, having their hospital there with everything that they need, like, I can't go see him at his office. You know, I wish I could, but I don't have that option.
Yeah, true. You know, but it's interesting though, because I mentioned to you this story of Natalia Voloshin, the Estonian woman living in Delray, Florida, and she had seen 30 specialists, but then in this case, she ended up finding a series of online videos, and then she ordered a handful of products specifically to target toxic infections and correct gut issues, and then she got a life back. So there are also these cases where maybe you're never alone because you always have God, and it depends like what situations open up. I absolutely believe the most ideal situation was the local doctor. It's down the road for everyone that comes, partially out of their taxes. That's their solution. But unfortunately, that's changed. That maybe it's never been that way since we've been in this world. But that's the good news, that whatever modality or whatever way to healing, there are ways there. But I get the point. Like, it'd be great to have someone locally, but I don't believe that's an obstacle. I don't.
And that's wonderful to hear, because that means that what I think is holding me back is not holding me back.
You got it. And good for you addressing a subconscious belief. That is, because I don't have a local doctor in my local area and I can't afford this, I can't get better. I won't get better. And then you learn about something new, you hear about it, but then the program would be like, but remember, you don't have a local doctor in your local area that you can't go to, so you can't get better. Remember? And so the program, the belief, overrides every other reality. Yeah, but look, I just read this study that this certain therapy does this certain thing, and that could be really great. But remember, you don't have, or remember you took a shot, and remember that you did that to you, and you harmed yourself, so you don't deserve to get better. And or whatever program it is, the program, the subconscious belief that is an accusing thought against yourself that stops your ability to break free and to do what you think you could do, and to then believe and to remember, wow, I used to snowboard. I'm going to get that back. I will get that back. It's just a matter of when and how. And they're the two variables. But the thing that is not a variable is I will get better. I know I will. I believe in it. I'm expecting this because I believe that God will give me this good gift, and it's gonna happen. It's just when and how, and I'm gonna keep asking those questions. I'm gonna walk through every door that's in front of me.
That's amazing. I can't wait, and I do believe you, and I am hopeful that we can recover, and I think some of us can take longer than others, and we are all different, and this vaccine has affected us all in different ways, but the root problem is the same within all of us. So if I can get the spike out of me, everybody can get the spike out of them too.
You got it. Have you ever heard of the 4-minute mile? Roger Bannister, he did a mile in 4 minutes, and he was the first person to do it. And up until that point, I think it might have been something like the 1950s or something, but it was a certain period of time. No one had done it yet. And then after that point, then tens, probably hundreds of people now, someone can look up the number, have done it. But then you'd say, well, what changed? Why is it that up until this certain point, lots of great runners, like humanity, it's not that we've gotten faster or stronger. What happened? The belief that it was possible actually shifted the outcome, and athletes began to be able to do that because they believed it was possible after Roger Bannister first did it. And you notice when you hear me talking, I keep talking about these stories of people reversing the exact types of things that you and your dear friends here have had. And it's because I'm not just doing it for like this thing of just like hoping that people feel good. I know that it has to be through a reality. I'm anchoring to a reality, but I'm also helping to rewrite that program with that belief that subconsciously tells you that you can't, because that is what influences everything. Anything I tell you about diet will get overridden by the fact that if you don't believe you're going to get better, why change your diet? It's no point. It's the outcome's going to be the same. I'm still going to suffer and die unless you rewrite the program, which you can. And it's by love. It's by loving yourself enough to believe that it's possible for yourself, and to see the facts and let that speak a new reality and truth. And like I mentioned with Dr. Henry Ely having early on 8 chronically injured patients from the COVID shots, and having every single one of them have a remarkable recovery to the point of becoming asymptomatic. Now we're working, and he is working, and others are on some cases that may be a little bit more difficult, that we're still in progress with them, but we know that we're going to get them done. We know we're going to solve these problems. It's just a matter of when and how, and some of these new things that we're understanding, I think, are a big key in that. So you had these things happen to you, and then what's your family situation? You mentioned a son.
My daughter,
and she's 17.
Yeah.
And then you're married.
I have my boyfriend's at home.
Okay. So your boyfriend, how long have you and your boyfriend been together?
We've actually been together about 5 years.
Okay.
Also for a while, we were together before all of this happened.
And this hasn't pulled, I mean, obviously it's put pressure. Strain, yeah, but it obviously hasn't pulled you apart. You're together, which is great.
By a miracle, like barely. It causes so much strain in every relationship I have. And I've had family and friends tell me not to talk about it, to leave it on social media, stop texting them about it. Like, they want me to text hi, but they don't want to hear about this. It doesn't feel good. It's horrible.
What's it feel like?
I feel like they lost sight on who I am. I feel like they don't know me at all. I was working so hard to be so close to my family before this. I spent all my vacation time to see my family.
So about your parents and siblings?
And my brothers and sisters, and my moms. my family in California.
Yep.
I haven't been back since this stuff started really happening. And part of the reason I haven't been back is because of money, really. But I often wonder what it would be like when I go visit after. And it's probably, is it going to be me just sitting there and pretending that I'm not going through this? I don't know.
There.
That alone it's hard to even go put myself in that situation, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I know that this is what my thought on that is that it is possible that on your terms, like for example, and this is really high level here, but what if you were unoffendable, unhurtable, so that if they had closed the door to you being able to share anything or say anything about what you're going through, which does make people feel invisible, and it actually is very hurtful, and it is very inhumane and cruel, it's true. But no one can forget the words of Jesus on the cross, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. And somehow there's a perspective in life that people can have that would allow people to be themselves or have all their issues that are actually very hurtful behaviors, but actually not to be hurt by it. It's peculiar, it's amazing, but I've seen it at work. I've had to tap into this, and I've seen it restore relationships and allow me to feel a peace and joy and to just see all the good. I know that I need that for my own health and healing, to be able to be out of that state of feeling like so hurt by what people have done to me or not done for me, or how they have not seen me. But then it actually creates this space where some people, like, they wake up and they see and they ask questions because they see a compassion and a grace, even though they haven't been gracious, or they haven't been kind, and they've been quite cruel or very cruel. Just food for thought.
I got to actually, and that I was in that constant trauma, everything I was doing when I was sick before I even got treatment. I went through 7 months of thinking I am on my way to dying before I was even able to get help from my free doctor. And so during those 7 months, everything I did was to help people in my community, to help my family. Number one, I felt like I had a big giant white flag to my family. Like, look what this is happening with this shot. And not being heard. And then I did a live event with canwetalkaboutit.org with Dr. Christensen. And I was crying all the time, emotionally, physically, just everything was being taken from me. And he made me realize that I couldn't spend my time focusing on people so much that don't want to hear what I have to say. That there's a place and work for that, but he said that for my own mental health that I should focus on people that care about me and focus on people that want to hear what I have to say. And he's like, it might not be your blood relatives. And when I made that kind of shift in my heart and my mind, and not that I still am not looking out for my family and I love them dearly, but I found a new family and people that care about me, and we all help each other, and that has tremendously made a difference in my life.
It's beautiful.
And being able to heal, like you're saying, God, and there's so much more to healing than just medications and shots. And doctor offices, you're absolutely right, because my number one source of healing is God. And then that includes my close relationships, caring, love,
absolutely,
compassion.
And so, Gloria, I want to say that I'm so glad that you can get the opportunity to be seen by, like, let's say, for example, people in the medical field, doctors that say, I see you, and what happened to you, it was wrong, this was evil, this happened to you, you were a victim. And to love you and to help you and to treat you and to all these things, friendships that see you, that have been through these things. there is one thing I want to say then back to your family. Gloria, you can love them irrespective of what they think about what happened to you or didn't happen to you. You can love them. They don't need to see things in any particular way for you to love them. You get to love them, and that no one can take that from you.
And I do.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I do love them.
And I know you do. I'm just saying that, like, when things like this happen, the need for justice is so strong that it sometimes just creates this barrier. But in this case, because you're the one that's open-minded, you're the one that's learning, you're the one that's willing to go the extra mile, you're the one that has the opportunity to bridge that so that there really isn't distance, even if they have the wrong position, they think wrongly about it. So long as they're not slamming a door in your face or you actually can't even get in the door, you can actually just be there and embrace them and love them. And if they don't want to talk about it right now, then that's their space. You can love them in that space to have their own thoughts and feelings. And I've maintained and had flourishing relationships with people that have been so opposite to me on so many things that are so hurtful to me actually in my natural state. And I've been able to bridge the gap with tons of these relationships and family members, people that, it's normally just unreconcilable. Yeah, so just...
And that's it is hopeful, and that's why too I kept standing. All the movements I do, there's so much work to be done in our movement, and I have to pick and choose just like everyone else what's the most important. I have to focus on that. The next important thing, focus on that. So I work with a campaign and I speak at the universities, and I came here to this conference, and every little thing I hope will show my family too. And I hope that I'll be able to go back and talk to them about everything.
It's awesome. It's awesome. And with what I'm saying, I speak from experience. Like, I had a situation where not only did the person oppose me, a sibling, but they spoke publicly about me on a podcast format, mocking me.
Oh, wow.
And that person is one of my closest friends. And they spent, a couple of weeks with me just over the month. And we just had the best time in the world, just embraced each other and loved each other. Like, because I didn't and it was very tempting to not let that come between us. And, but I chose not to let it come between us, and it didn't. And so, and I didn't let it destroy that relationship. And yes, that sibling apologized to me for that, and they wish they had done things differently, but it took time for them to even see that. And so it just gives us all this ability to say, look, I don't need to hold this. Yes, sure, someone might have a fight against me. I don't have a fight against them. I got no one to fight here. I'm just here to love. That I'm not called to do anything else. I'm not called to seek justice. I'm called to... Justice in its true sense is not what people call it and make it out to be. That's why it's social justice. It's about actually reforming. It's about helping, making things better, not about getting even. It's a wrong usage of the word. And so once we change that paradigm, we can have these relationships. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's incredible. And before you go, you mentioned that you were doing some things to help end some mandates in some universities.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I started speaking at the university school board meetings because they were mandating the shots on the faculty and students. And because of my situation, I wanted to make sure that people knew that what these shots were doing, and that completely against mandates. Nobody should be forced to do anything. This shot should be pulled, let alone mandated on people. So I started submitting my public comment to the universities, and then my second comment, I was able to go in person, and I told them a lot of the information, but they just didn't hear me. And in June, I showed up and I spoke again, and I was the only one that showed up that time. So they heard everything I said. And I brought publications from Dr. Malone and Peter McCullough and Pierre Corey, and they did a complete investigation of everything I said in that board meeting. But at the end of that board meeting, they actually voted down mandates in the whole state of Nevada for all university faculty. And so like that alone is amazing. And like, so for one little step can like build into something more. All my steps have been little steps or that turn into something big. So it just keeps me going and keeps me fighting. And, you know, my daughter now can go to that university and not have mandates. And that's what she's getting ready to go into college. So I see what's happening there, and I have to fight. I have to fight for her. I have to fight for all of us. Our future depends on it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you shared that information, and do you believe that what you shared was actually pivotal in them voting down the mandates?
Yes, definitely.
Why do you believe that?
So some things I did different this last time I went. I pretty much I sat there until they voted. I took a whole day off, and they make you do your public comment, and they talk for hours. And this is like how it is at a lot of board meetings. And then they vote at the end. And the last time I spoke, I kind of did what I had to do, and I left. And I watched on TV like what they did later. Well, this time I prepared myself to sit there the whole time for hours. And so, you know, when it was time to vote, I looked at each and every one of them in their face. And a couple of them took a while and looked at me, you know, and voted no. It makes me think that if I wasn't there, they could have easily voted yes. And, you know,
no or yes, like no.
Like no mandates or for the mandates. At this time the mandates were in, they passed mandates. And so we already had mandates. And then in June, I was talking every time I could on vaccines to try to get them to turn those mandates down. And then in June, I was the only one that showed up, which like 20 people show up at a time to talk about vaccines and stuff in the past. And then I happened to see that they were talking about it, and I went there and I was expecting another 20 people, but I was the only person. So they heard everything that I had to say. And, you know, after that, I actually built a lot of relationships because there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way.
Wow. So
now bringing our communities together in this, and I think is just so important. So that's what I also like work with my global campaign at canwetalkaboutit.org. And so really bringing us together on a global level, but also our communities together, I think both are just so important.
Amazing. And so on this is June of last year, 2022. And so then on that board meeting for which state?
Nevada.
For Nevada, you're saying that you were the only one that presented in general, and then you were the only one that presented against the vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
And that was the same one you waited to the end and you eyeballed everyone?
Yeah.
And so then how many people were placing their votes?
Either 13 or 15.
And then each one you eyeballed. Did everyone give you eye contact back out of the 50?
Some people probably didn't even look at me. And some people voted, yes, mandates real easy. Some people voted no, and those people like still reach out to me and ask how I am. And I've been voting no since day one, but they're outvoted. Wow. And those regions inspire me as well, because the ones that are fighting against the wolves, you know, coming after them, and they have been standing the whole time. And so I also felt like I needed to be there to back up what they've been fighting for as well.
True. And then of those that voted no, how many of those looked at you? Do you remember?
Maybe most, if not all of them.
Really?
And the people that voted yes the last time, those were the ones that I really wanted to make sure they need to see what's happening and make that connection with, so that they aren't just listening to this safe and effective, and the hospitals are overran by unvaccinated. I can't believe in June 2022 they were saying the same thing as what we've been told this whole time. So I came with saying, look at all this wonderful information I've learned, when this university is saying the same thing that they've been saying all along. So they came with the same lines that they were talking a year ago. The hospitals are overran with unvaccinated. I was very surprised when I heard them talking about that. So yeah, I came with everything I learned in the last 6 months. And they wanted a complete investigation done. And I still have my job, so I'm assuming the investigation went really well. And there's no more mandates.
So when things are going on, well, when mandates are being passed in schools, universities, in an entire state, or in some cases an entire country, you're seeing that people can show up to these board meetings, they can present, and then they can basically, like you did, make sure you don't just walk out after you've done your presentation, stay the course, eyeballs.
Hold them accountable when they are making their decision. I think it's very important. I think it changed a lot from you learn when you're presenting on how to make it better. And I think that is one dramatic change that I got a lot of result from. So I would, if I do it again, if they try to put mandates back on, I will be back in there, and I will sit there, and I'll sit there the whole time and they'll know who I am this time.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for everything you're doing.
Thank
You're
you,
awesome.
Jonathan.
You're awesome.
Thank you so much for having me.